Okay, Kai, we didn't we didn't specify at all how we start and who will start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it matters too much. I think I'm always in the habit of like starting in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. So we sit here at this table and we want to discuss an important matter. Our topic is the economics of teaching and how is this approached? What is the attitude towards what is how can I say a word, not using money, but how can I say a sort of, nice Latin word here, like a sort of a nice word like the giving back and forth. Is there a nice word for this? English word?
Yeah, like I don't know, some sort of like reciprocity.
I also thought about this word, but then I wasn't sure.
That's what I often think of it as, though.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is what's happening when one thing is given from one person to another person and then the other person gives back?
Yeah.
How should this be approached?
I think that, this is, I think why we ended up wanting to like talk about it some more is that like, we're in this like space where everything is turned into a bit of a product, right? So something to be purchased and owned and consumed or something. And
as a society, we are in this space, or who is in this space?
I think that the world, at least that I exist in, I don't know how it is here, but coming from the U.S., I think that everything is almost seen as a bit of a commodity, right? So it's everything is some sort of product, whether it's a tangible item or maybe thoughts or ideas can end up becoming commodities in some ways. And I think what I was saying the other day is that it might be a bit of like a privilege to have everything be a commodity, but also be a limitation in the sense that life has been kind of, sanitized and maybe made safe in a way where we don't have to exist in, our tribes and our communities as the way that they used to be, but it also means that everything can be turned into a commodity because we don't need to exist that way and kind of count on people in the way that we used to. Whereas,
Is this a bit of a hen-egg thing? Like what comes first? Like what is... So the commodity... Can you explain this word because I needed an explanation from you, and I think for many people they don't know what it means.
Commodity is like a product. Like everything being a commodity would be like everything being something you could purchase in some way, something purchasable as a commodity.
And if you approach things like this, that that you make things into a commodity, it creates what?
I think that it means that some people have access to ideas, information, concepts, or wisdom, and some people don't. When those things are turned into commodities, because it's only for the people who can purchase those things or have access to them.
But isn't it always the case that only some people have access to certain things, because there's also like limitations to the distribution of goods?
Totally. I think that at other times in history, though, I think that things like wisdom, we might have, or ideas, or concepts, we may have wanted everybody in our community to have access to them because it would have supported the ongoing life of that community. But when we don't have to worry about those things, it's some of these ideas that might not have been commodities in the past are commodities now. And sometimes that's how I feel about, I don't know, some of the things that are shared in movement spaces or things like that, where, I don't know, some of the things maybe weren't so inaccessible in the past and only for like the people who could afford them.
But at the same time, this is, how do you say, this is meeting this point in time where so many things are freely accessible, no?
Mm-hmm.
Like through the internet, I mean.
True.
There's so many things that are, like the amount of knowledge and information and so on that is accessible today. Probably we can say it grows so much in a second that it's like what is uploaded in a second is probably more than that was available, like the human knowledge that was available to a person, I don't know, a few hundred years ago or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like every second, like so much gets uploaded that would be, I mean, there's an unlimited amount of information. It's far from all information. There are definitely things that are not on the internet, because some people think like everything is on the internet, and that's far from true. There are many, many things that are not on the internet that cannot be found there, that are still just in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, there is a bit, I would say, this how do you say when you have this rope fight where one group is on the other?
Tug of war.
Tug of war. Okay, you have this tug of war between these two, no? Like there's this all this information free in a sense, like free like this, because a lot of this also based. I mean, there's this idea of that you are the product, you know, like when you use Google or YouTube and this stuff, then they receive information about you, and then they basically sell the information about you to place advertisements. So let's take this out of the equation for now. And on the other hand, it meets, exactly what you say. Or it meets your claim that things are more and more maybe put into a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
What's the relationship between these two? Because I feel, you know, on the other hand, there is a mentality of everything should be freely available.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, there is and the other side of the rope is we can make a product out of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that with regard to the internet, just real quick, I think the thing that's interesting about that is I think that knowledge is available on the internet, but not necessarily understanding. Because to me, understanding is like is experiential.
Yeah.
So that is one of like the great limitations, is that it's not the same as like putting our hands in the dirt, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the idea that the dance between kind of freely accessible and everything being a product is kind of the as you said, the tug of war. I think what I struggle with the most is the idea that that understanding, our rich potential for understanding through like experience, is the thing that falls into like the product or commodity category. Some of the other things I'm not quite as torn about. It's more that like I think that the world has the potential to look so different when people have access to some of some of that potential for understanding, you know. Because I think that things that you're sharing or I'm sharing, you know, whatever it is, whatever the different vehicles are, whether it's, you know, movement or craftsmanship or grappling or whatever the different approach is. In some ways, it's often just like a vehicle for wisdom, or vehicle for a richer understanding, or a vehicle for a message. And I don't know, I think to myself, like, when these messages really matter, you know, don't we want them to be in the hands of a lot of people? And maybe it's not removing any sort of reciprocity from it, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it looks different. Maybe sometimes it's direct, sometimes it's indirect. Maybe it's creating opportunities where people can give what they can. I don't know what it is, but I guess I just think if the message matters, there might be different layers of creating that sort of availability. That isn't just the knowledge piece.
And do you have a suggestion how to do this? What you would like to see?
I mean, I've had the opportunity to play with a few different ideas. Nothing is like terribly fruitful, because in the end, it's like, you know, we live in expensive places, and also continuing to create and share can cost quite a bit. But I've had very nice experiences, like playing with doing things that were free and having people give money or give as like donations, or, you know, people have lent me cars and given me books and coffee and taken me out to dinner. So people want to support whatever the endeavor is in some way, you know. But I've also played with different donation-based things, or also just sometimes just not charging a large amount in ways that are kind of really playing to like an upper echelon, you know. And I think that, I don't know, I've been in a lot of places where I've taken classes or workshops, and I've looked around and I felt like I'm seeing a lot of the same person, you know. And I don't know, there must be ways that allow these things to get into the hands of a lot more different people, you know, especially if the message matters. As I said, you know, I believe that some of this stuff is just packaged wisdom that would have been shared throughout a community, maybe in a tribe or smaller communities, because they realized, wow, if everybody had a piece of this, if it had been handed down to everybody, you know, the whole tribe benefits from it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know you're doing a donation-based year here. I don't know if that's an emergence from some of this thinking, or if it's from something else.
No, yes. Okay, donation-based is, first of all, tax-wise not the right word, I have to say. Yeah, it's also written on my website. So it's in a sense not donations, but people pay for it. I still pay normal taxes on it. Yeah, just that no one writes me after a year they want to get their donation certificate for the German tax office. Okay.
Wrong word.
Okay, I'm doing this year my group training for free. What is the reason? Why am I doing this? The main reason is that the Corona time has created such a confusion about what is possible, what can we do, what can we not do, and there was a lot this, okay, now we can do a bit of training, but only in this configuration, and now not anymore. And it was a very, I think both of us, we have to sit a bit like this because the microphones are a bit down. So if someone is writing, why do you have such a bad posture, then just don't write it, because it's because of the microphones. Yes? Thanks. Yeah, it created this huge attack on my group class, and what was this huge attack on my group class, and I think everyone can relate to this that is doing similar things, that it has been very difficult time. So I thought, okay, this is like the group training is in a sense shattered anyway from this time. So is the money that is coming in from this is very little. So it's a good opportunity to do an experiment. And the experiment is this, that for 1 year the group training is for free, but people can donate. It's in a sense not this type of thing where I assume people will donate, because there is for free, but actually the assumption is that people are giving money. No, this is a sort of a, how do you call it? Like it's a like you can come and don't give money, but it's expected that you give money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here the situation is not like this because it's an open experiment. I don't expect anything to happen in a sense. Obviously, I have things I would like to happen, but there's no real expectation from me. But the idea is to rebuild the group training after this Corona time. And I want to see what happens if it's for free, how many people are coming if it's for free. Is the price of the training really a thing? Like how much is it a thing that people come? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. There are many different layers to this also, obviously, like because the price of, let's say, €50 a month would be another experiment compared to a price of €150 a month. Mm-hmm. So there could be also experiments in itself, which is always a bit of a question mark in, let's say, things where the situation is that, I mean, obviously there's a limit to the people that can attend one class, yeah? But it's not like a one-on-one session where the limit is 1. So you have some possibilities there to play with the price if you want to have the same outcome. Let's say that your outcome is you want to get €100 per month. Let's take it super simple, yeah, for the mathematics. €100 per month. So obviously I can say, okay, I just need one person in the group training pays €100, or I have 10 people and they pay €10, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what happens if I charge €50 a month? What happens if I charge €150 a month? What happens if I charge 0 and people donate? Like how much money is actually coming around for this? This is not my experiment. I'm actually, I mean, in a sense, I don't even have data for, I obviously know how much money comes in because I obviously keep track on this, but I haven't actually not taken much track. Like I haven't looked how much money came in through the group training in the last month because that was not something I was interested in. I was interested in seeing how many people are coming to the group training. Now, another question rises up. What's about the seriousness of attendees? Because one thing is to attend somewhere, and another thing is to attend something seriously. How much is money? How much is the fact that you have to give or that you can give? And these are two different things. Affecting your seriousness in the participation. So what I mean is, obviously, if someone is paying, to exaggerate, €1,000 per month for something, and that's a significant amount of what this person earns, so it's not the shake of whatever, but yeah, there's a significant amount of what the person has. It's likely that there will be a certain seriousness. Is it because the person is giving so much money, or is it because only if you're serious you are giving so much money? Again, can be this, can be that. So now if someone is not giving anything back, is this a drop on the seriousness? Obviously that's individual, but it's a question rising up. It's actually one of the main questions that I have, that I observe, where I observe the participants, like how often do they come? How do they approach it, and so on? Because, one thing is, I clearly said this will be only for this year. I will never do this again. in my life. I will never do this group class for free in my life. I never say never, who knows, yeah, but this is what I put out now as information. So in a sense, wouldn't it be the rational thing for a participant that likes the training to come this year all the time and take as much information out, especially for players, for participants of the game that don't have the money to afford paying money for it. But still, I don't think this is happening. I don't think it's happening that people are coming all the time. As I said, I don't take such accurate track on it, to be honest, but I see, obviously, this person I see all the time, this person I don't see all the time, and we have this tool where you say I'm coming or I'm not coming, yeah, and they can also see, no? So that's already interesting. Like, although it's for free only this year, it doesn't necessarily make people take the opportunity to come all the time. Obviously, because everyone has their other stuff also to do, but it's still an interesting bit of information. So these are all things I'm unsure about. I'm definitely a skeptic to this for free thing. So I'm not doing it because I believe it's such a great thing. I'm doing it because I want to see if it grows the group training again. But I'm also, for example, thinking about the other protagonists in Berlin that are also teaching group trainings, and I was thinking, is this actually ethical if I provide my group training for free? You know, is this okay because other people are charging for the group training? Yeah, so if you are listening to this and you're also providing group trainings in Berlin, it's definitely an apology from me that I do this experiment, because I don't want to take participants or money away from other people. This really doesn't feel good for me. So there is some problematic implications about also like giving things for free if other people earn their living with a group training, which I definitely don't do this year, obviously, because it's for free. But yeah, I have my other things like my workshops, my courses, my online stuff that that we as a team earn our money with. So yeah, I'm a skeptic when it comes to this free stuff, mainly because to do something professionally needs resources. That's my claim. And we have also in our pre-talk, we have scratched this a bit, because, and I will come to this in a second. So first of all, only because, that's the first premise. So if I give something for free, doesn't mean I receive for free. So if I go to the supermarket, I still need to pay. And I can also not bargain with the person that is sitting at the cash out at the supermarket and hey, I teach this group training for free, can I only pay 10 euros instead of 15 today? Obviously it's impossible, because they are in this system. It's just not the world we're living in. Obviously, if we would be in a village, and there would be the farmer in the village, and the farmer knows I'm doing this yoga class that's for free, and then the farmer gives me some potatoes for this, that's a complete different situation. But we live in this hyper, in a sense, we live in a world where we have so many connections that we are completely disconnected from each other, no? Yeah, that there's no connection to the supermarket there. Although I go there, there's a supermarket where I go to, like for the last 10 years. But do you think anyone recognizes me there? I mean, maybe, but
right, there's like no humanizing of anything.
Exactly, there's no connection. There's no real connection, no? Also from me, like I don't feel super loyal to this supermarket. Yeah, it's like a supermarket of a big chain with 1,000 or maybe 10,000 supermarkets in Germany, or who knows, like how many they have, and it's all like this village thing is it's just not happening. So I can sort of simulate this, no, like you said, like, okay, you were teaching this for free, and then people sort of village-like were giving you like books or helping you out if you needed a car, blah blah blah. Yeah, but it always stays sort of intra small circle thing, no? Like it's not that suddenly you go to the airport and then they tell you, okay, yeah, just bought this flight for free today or something like this. So that's the first premise. Like I still have to pay at the supermarket full price. They don't give me any discounts. Yeah. Same with your landlord. I don't say my landlord because I live, it's owned by a relative. So actually I can talk with my landlord. Yeah. But for most people, that's not possible, yeah, to bargain with the landlord or with the electricity provider and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that money or that resources, aka money, is providing possibilities to do things. Let's say if the provider of something has a certain amount of money, they can continue with their education, they can buy equipment, they can blah blah blah. They can put things back into, how do you say, into the system. Yeah, it's almost a double benefit for the participants. It can be like the participant pays and for this receives the class, but through paying makes also the class better because the person can buy new tennis balls or something, or can buy tennis balls. Yeah, couldn't buy before. This premise number 2, like that when you put money into something and the money is used well, you're actually improving the service that you receive. And do I have a third one? I thought I had a third one.
What you're talking about makes me think about like the sliding scales, which I think are really interesting approaches, which I've also started playing with a little bit, and also doing things that are donation based, but also say like this is a recommended donation, but no one will be turned away due to lack of funds. I think that that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I also like this one that I did not too long ago. I participated in. I paid, but it was kind of like there were 3 price points. There was this high and a middle and a low.
Yeah.
And at each one, the person's life at that level was kind of described. So maybe at the highest level, it might say like, you know, you own a home and you are not living paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, describe what you're like. Maybe you own a car, you know, and then the middle level, maybe it says you're a renter and maybe you live paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, this is what your life looks like. You ride a bike, you don't own a car, something, I don't know. And then the lowest level is like, oh, you know, you are maybe having to live with a friend or a relative. Like you can't afford to rent something right now. And maybe you're out of work or seeking a job, or you work multiple jobs or something, to create these like layers so that there's different spaces for people to jump in at, which I think is so valuable, not just for like the passing on of like things that I say like are to me more like wisdom that can support community and culture, but also getting much more diverse groups together. You know, if it's always kind of like that top tier thing, you know, we get a lot of the same people who are coming from the same body of experience, and simply from a level of like empathy and compassion, the more different people we have coming together, like the more perspectives we're getting and the more we can kind of connect with people that are not the people that we always see next door to us.
This I find also very interesting, and for example, I find it also very sad that through the, how do you say, the different values of currencies in the world, already people are, it's made very hard for people in certain places in the world to participate in, for example, my stuff. Although I teach online and sort of everyone could participate, obviously if you live in a country where you have a normal job that would usually allow you in Germany to participate, but you cannot participate because your currency is, the value is much less compared to euro. Yeah, this I find is an enormous problem. I mean, it's basically, this is the base of our economy, of our globalized economy. No, that the currencies have different values, or people get paid less for the same work in other countries, and this is also how we can have shirts that are like just €5 a shirt, and if you know how long the whole process takes and the resources needed, then it seems pretty ridiculous that a shirt is only costing €5. But it's possible because of this weird situation we are in, and it creates a lot of inequality, and also a lot of inequality in access to goods that are, on the one hand, very easily accessible. Let's say it's an online course that can be just downloaded, but the thing that needs to be charged, let's say, obviously there doesn't need to be anything needs to be charged, you could say, but or the price that is decided is a price. When I decide my price, obviously I think about Germany, and I think about, okay, what if this course would be bought by, let's say, 100 people, and the course should make this and this money, so I divide it, okay, and this is the price that I come up with. But then what about people from, for example, South America, where sometimes people attending, and I know there are a few people that like my stuff there, but I know also that it's always difficult for people from these regions, and only certain people can really afford to attend, maybe because they are in a business that is paid very well, or because they have connections, they are like themselves actually working internationally, or you know. But so to sum this up, I have thought many times, should I have, like for the online stuff, should I have prices differently for regions in the world? And I cannot really do it for stuff where I teach one-to-one, because just my time is not allowing it. Like I need to make a certain amount of money per time, and if I would to pay my bills, and if I would say, okay, I charge less, then on another end I need to charge more. I mean, that could be a possibility to say, hey, and this is something that is a system nowadays, no? Like if you are in the supermarket, you have all this stuff, where in Germany you have this company, I think it's called, I don't know if it's German or they have an English name, Share. And it's like, okay, you buy one chocolate bar, and then, I don't know if someone in a different country also gets a chocolate bar. I think they get more like a bottle of water, or what, you know, like okay, you pay a bit more, and for you it's just a few cents, but in a different country this is a whole meal for a whole day. It's sort of nice, no? It has its own problems, definitely, many problems probably, but I think that might be also a possibility, no? To say, okay, if you're in this first hire, like you said, like, okay, you own a house and you own 3 lions and a tiger, then you can pay something more, and this allows someone else that can usually not afford it to then maybe also receive one-on-one coaching or something like this. Because one thing also is, which is, I think, the problem of the work that we are doing. The people that have a lot of time and can devote of energy to it, they have very little money, and the people that have the money to really pay for the stuff usually don't have so much time.
Right, they're busy.
Because they are busy. And this is creating a very weird or funny situation that this stuff, I think it also lives from people that are really devoting their time.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, for me it's very important to work with people also that have very little time, and to say, okay, here's your 3 hours per week stuff, or just your 90 minutes per week, okay, here 3 times 30 minutes, do this, okay, yeah, the doctor, 3 kids, or something like this, or blah 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 blah. Okay, that they can do this, but sort of the base of a practice such as this is also that people are really devoting themselves, because otherwise it becomes just this, that this is this thing that is done for 90 minutes a week, but it shall be something whereas the foundation of people that are really devoting time each week. But these people are people in a different, like in a situation where economically they don't need much money, and then the money that they have, they can afford for this, and they have obviously a certain base of people like this. They work enough so that they can pay their rent and their stuff, and that they can that then they do 20 hours of devotion for this practice per week. But then obviously they don't have kids. Like, it's highly likely maybe 1% of these people has a family in that sense, and they are usually below 30 years old, and so on and so forth. And obviously that's also not what I just want to work with, but I also want to work with people that are already really arrived in a certain life. Like, okay, they already have their things, their clarity, their work, they're settled in, but still they can benefit from this work a lot. And this idea with the different price tiers I really like. I have never implemented it yet, and I think the main reason is why I have not implemented, because I then always wonder how to do this well. Like, shall people decide themselves, or I
think that there's something about kind of just the describing of the categories that ask people to kind of I don't know, turn on Michael Jackson Man in the Mirror for a moment and really think about who they are. What category do they fill? I think sometimes people think they're the middle category, but when then it's described on paper and they see, oh, well, I do own a home and I do own a car, and
I think that's
own
a
company.
very, very important point. Very sorry for interrupting, but I think that's a very important point, and this may be the point where I lost a bit the faith in people, or where I think it needs to be done in such a way that is more clear. Because I think when people tell me, and this happened often enough to me, I don't have money, can you give me discount, blah, blah, I can say, okay, here's a discount, okay, comes to the workshop, and then, because my ears are always open, I hear conversation there. And last week I was on this festival in Norway, and before that I was in the Netherlands and doing this crazy thing there, and so on. And I feel why do you tell me that? Why do I have to give you a discount if you're making all these experiences? Why is it not your your duty to decide what is important for you? You want to do everything, so you ask everywhere for a discount, instead of saying, okay, you cannot do everything currently because you don't have the funds, or you need to just work more, maybe because there are also enough people, they're not really doing any work. I mean, they're just out 20-year-olds, they're just out there and searching for experience, and so it makes a lot of sense. If you don't do this, if you're 20 years old and you're not like going here and there and making lots of experience, you're doing it wrong, probably. But on the other hand, it's also, okay, then, like, how are we solving this? Like, why did I actually give you a discount, like, or shall we, I sometimes felt that was not so cool. Like, I gave a discount, but I felt like you are the one that is benefiting from this a lot, and it's not so clear if the world is so much benefiting from this. Like, what are you actually then giving back? And sometimes people ask me like, I don't have money, is there some work that I can do for you? But I have my things set up, I have all my people, like I can ask so many people to help me if I need the help. And usually if I ask for help, then, or if it's like something bigger, then I obviously pay for it, and then I have enough people that I gave a lot. So if I ask them, it's sort of like their opportunity now to give back. So if people write to me, is there something I can do for me? It's like, I can already ask so many people. Like I have, I don't know how to say this in English, but I still have unused credit for many people that
right,
I helped throughout
who still have something that they owe you or
okay. And at some point, if you do this a lot, then at some point it becomes a bit like, I have a lot of credit with people, but I can barely use it. Like, what am I using it for? I mean, we can now build the Tower of Babel, or what shall we do? Like, I mean, at some point, what I need is just money, because money is such a smart thing, actually. Like, it's very the devil is a bit inside there. It's pretty clear, but also on the other hand, that money is stored work, is stored. Someone has worked, and here's a credit. This you can use, and you can use it then for everything, because everything translates into money. Like you said, everything becomes a commodity. This also means that there's no negotiation problems. Like if I go to the supermarket, I don't have to ask them, I want some potatoes. Would you like to get a movement class for this? No, sorry, I don't need that. Okay, then that I cannot get any potatoes. But we have money and say, okay, potatoes cost €5. Okay, here, €5. Okay, goodbye. It has good and bad things, but it allows very easy trade.
Yeah, well, I think I see that it's just, I've gotten to like witness your life, and you're not somebody who seems like seduced by like the culture of abundance, right? Like, I think I've crossed paths with plenty of people who, want more money so that they can have more things, so that they can like exist in like the abundance world. And I think that, your reflections are so honest and authentic because you're not expressing this desire for, I don't know, this, I always say it's this like upward trajectory of life that we're led to believe is what it's supposed to be. Like our bank account keeps getting bigger and bigger, and our house gets bigger, and we accumulate more things. What you're proposing is more just like, how is this a way that I can continue to swerve along through life and do like the squiggly line of like change and experience and evolution, while being able to like support that. You're like, I just need to be able to continue to like row my boat and fix my boat. Yeah,
exactly. And this is a nice continuous.
And I think I think what I struggle with is, once like values are kind of wrapped up in like what we're sharing, it becomes so personal, right? It kind of surpasses that feeling of it being a product. It's like it's like an art or like a piece of you that you're wanting to like give people access to. So if someone doesn't maybe treat it with any sort of value when you've gifted a piece of your art to them in some way, and then you overhear them saying, "Oh, well, I went at this festival and did this and that," and you're like, "Oh, well, I can't believe you didn't value this piece of me I wanted to share with you. That's not just a product. That's not just I make headphones and sell headphones." You're like, no. This is like, I'm sharing my beliefs with you. I'm sharing my ideas or my wisdom or
which can be also present in good headphones.
Yeah, which can be present in good headphones. But your values, and I think that's where I struggle, where I'm like, oh, like once my vision for the world, what I wish to see in the world, gets wrapped up in like what I'm sharing. I want it to be accessible, and also I want people to, to have some sort of, doesn't have to be reverence, but some sort of respect for it in some way. And I get that, like, it can be, a financial exchange, but also like, oh, sometimes if it is a scholarship or if it is like the giving it away, you're like, I hear what you're saying. You're like, oh, I want you to understand that I've given you something that I've invested a lot of like energy into and care about, because it's part of the way I live my life. It's not just it never necessarily emerged with the desire for it to be a product. It like emerged out of curiosity and tinkering and caring and self-imposed education, and maybe that's why I think the tier thing is an interesting way to do it, and inevitably there will be somebody who says, I can't even like afford the bottom tier.
Yeah.
But at least they're actually having to look in the mirror to do it. And that's where when it's like given away, maybe it's more like, oh, well, this person must really need it because they went through all those categories and they don't see that they fit even that lowest financial tier right now,
And then there could be a relationship between the tiers, no? That if someone is in the top tier, someone signs up, like it opens a slot in the lower tier or something like this. This could prevent, like I like it also very much, this what you said, like no one gets turned away because of lack of funds. Did I say it correctly? But the worst case would be now that, I mean, no one, everyone that shows up, like no one has any money. So, okay, I turn no one away, but no one is paying any money. And because the problem is, then things cannot continue. And this is the point that I was making in a sense earlier, and with my second premise or second assumption, premise maybe not the right word, that, and this is a thought I took from a German businessman called Götz Werner. He founded a big chain of drugstores in Germany, but he's sort of known for they treat their employees well. And he had this book. He wrote a book about UBI, Universal Basic Income. In German is bedingungsloses Grundeinkommen. So I read this book because he was very much into it, that it should happen. And one thought I took out of there that I made definitely part of my philosophy about money, about how I approach it and talk about it, is when, maybe the example would be this: when someone comes to your workshop, and a good example is especially if he pays after the workshop, someone comes to your class and pays. In a sense, he's not paying for the class if he pays after, because the class already happened. But what he pays for is that you can continue and to teach the next class. Yeah, that you can buy your food tomorrow, because until this point, I mean, you're here, you are alive, but that you can also stay alive for the next day. So if you give money to something, it means that you keep it alive, that things will continue. Yeah, and good that you said this also about the getting rich and all this, like I don't even, for me it's not even a thing, like to talk about this, because this is like a children's or teenager nonsense. I mean, I hope we don't need to, but maybe it's in the heads of the people so much. Everyone just wants to get money to enrich themselves or some stuff like this, but for most people that's not the reality they live in. If they do real quality stuff, I would say, people like craftsmen, artists, and so on and so forth, they're not in this like to become rich, but they want to continue their stuff. There's a need inside of them.
Well, that's
that
what I mean when I
this
say that
work.
it's like attached to your values.
Exactly.
And like that's where there's this like, I don't know, like I'm here in Germany because I care deeply about the thing that I'm presenting.
Yes.
So much so that I'm like, well, I'm not gonna have an apartment in New York. I'm gonna put everything in a backpack, and I'm gonna run off and share this with as many people as I can. It's not the most like business-like approach, because I could set up something online, or I could try to create a system or some sort of like advanced way of monetizing it. But in my world and through my lens and my values, I'm like, no, I want to connect with people, and I want to like share these ideas, through the vehicle of movement. And the way to do that is to like, take certain artistic risks,
Yes.
The painting isn't always a paintbrush on a canvas. Like sometimes the painting is getting on a plane with a backpack and showing up in parks with gymnastics rings and straps and tennis balls and ideas. And I think to do that and to care deeply about something is like it's not financially fruitful. But I do think that like there is this seduction of abundance and seduction of like words like growth that people are lustful for, right? And there are teachers and coaches and trainers that are drawn in by that, and maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some way of communicating to the potential students or attendees or players or interested parties that like, sure, this is my business, but I'm not a business person. You're like, I'm here to share artwork. I'm here to share my perception, or I'm here to share values, and maybe, I don't know, maybe then people look at it and have a different relationship with what they're getting, but also like what they're going to give to have access to that.
Yeah, and think about it a bit less like a win-lose scenario, where every time you give money to something you are losing. No, you're actually shaping the world. You're shaping what's happening next, like where you give the money to. Yeah, if someone is attending your class and then gives money to it, this is a hit on the button of this shall continue. Boom. Okay, tuck. That's it, because it's so simple, and I don't know, the people that I know that are teaching like in Germany, and the like my friends that are doing similar things, I don't know anyone that is where I feel like this person is interested in enriching themselves. Like it's all, for all of them, it's a passion, and there is an urgency, obviously, that if you do this professionally full time, that you can also pay your bills. Yeah, but I mean, that must be, no? Like, because otherwise you do it not professionally. You don't do it full time, or you become super monastic and you live, only on the floors of others people's apartments. But why should it be like this? Like that where when you teach something that is good and that is genuine, that you are not then fully integrated in society in a normal life, like just living normally, you know, like how other people live, like having a home and going to the grocery store and buying stuff and so on and so forth. So
I think it's different. You know, it's interesting. I keep having this like vision as we're talking about this of like you know, when you go to like an outdoor market or like a art fair, like an arts and crafts type fair, and you're walking through and you're seeing all these artists, and some of them are like potters, or there's some of them are like leather workers or something, and you're looking at the person who's sitting behind the table, and they have these things that they've made presented, and you're shopping and looking at all the things. You see this tangible item, you see this like piece of pottery that someone has made with their hands, and you're looking at the person who made it. And somehow seeing that very tangible thing, I think people can understand it more, because again, they see it as like this like product that they can like grab with their hands. Whereas with some of the things that we're doing, it's hard for someone to walk through the market and see us sitting there with our ideas and see the thing that they can grab onto in the same way. So it's not as tangible in that way, which makes it a little more abstract. But yeah, I think that kind of identifying a little bit more as like an artist, and like, you know, that you're kind of showing up at our table and purchasing a piece of pottery. It's a little bit more like that.
And it's funny also how somehow know that, because ideas, this is like the special human thing. I mean, to craft is also very special, but also animals are like, the birds are making their nests and so on. Yeah, obviously we craft in a way that is no other being on this planet can do. But it's like, then, you know, which animal is creating poems or movies or something like this. So, I mean, this is the most special human thing, to have ideas, to be creative, not just with your hands, not to degrade the hands, because I mean, this is where it's all started, in a sense, with the hands. And this is where it shall also continue. But the ideas, like in your head, if it's philosophical ideas, or ideas about how to move or how to train and so on, it's funny that you somehow have to like then say, why should you pay for this? Because people are asking this, why would you pay for this? Yeah, so why are you paying for? I mean, why are you paying for potatoes? They are just growing by themselves in the earth, and you're also paying for this, no?
Right.
Yeah, but someone brought them there, someone had some work, and so on and so forth. It's the same with ideas. Someone had them, someone brought them out into the world, and it's not that if you pay for them, it's not that the person is taking things away from you. It's not like, he takes my money, he takes, like, it's a bit like I cut off my arm when I give someone money. This is this win-lose mentality. If I give something, that's me losing and the other person winning. But it's a reciprocity. You're also receiving something. It's not. It's not a thief or a robber that jumps in front of you in the forest with a crossbow and says, "Okay, give me all your money, or otherwise I shoot you in the heart." Yeah. That's not the situation. You are receiving something back. And if you think the value isn't right, then that's another story. Yeah, this can happen. But again, this is not the level we're talking about. No, we're not talking about, I don't know, some fraudsters or whatever is overpriced. I'm not even really coming up with something where that is. I mean, there's one protagonist in the world of movement where people are regularly saying it's overpriced, but I'm if I think about products, like is there anything that is clearly overpriced? Like I'm not sure, you know.
In movement?
No, in like normal things, because there are things that are very expensive. No, let's say a Mercedes is very expensive. No, like, but is it overpriced? Like I'm not sure. Like, what do I know? Like maybe I mean, because we live in this free market society, like it's very hard actually to overprice things. Apple products are super expensive. I'm not sure if they are really overpriced in that sense. They are expensive, but there's also no need to get them in a sense. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that like, to me, like a Mercedes, for instance, falls into like the category of like exclusive, right? So like
it's not a basic human need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I see in movement is often
only
like,
in Germany.
Yeah. What I see in movement though is often like the term like inclusive, like tossed around quite a bit. Like this is, you know, this is meant to be inclusive. This is meant to be for everybody. And there are certain reasons I listen to and hear and understand a lot of criticisms about like it not necessarily being inclusive even in relationship to like different bodies, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I am interested in though is in regard to what we're talking about, like with the financial component, is like when we talk about inclusivity, there is a financial component that goes into that as well, right? Because at a certain point it becomes exclusive. And I mean, I've been to some of these expensive events where, as I said, I looked around and I'm like, I realize this is exclusive even though we're claiming it's inclusive. Maybe on the movement level, the moves or the games could be inclusive in terms of that they can be done by anybody. But getting to participate in it is exclusive. And, you know, sometimes it's okay for things to be exclusive if we own that. You know, we say, oh, like, for instance, it could be a handstand workshop or something, and it might say like, hey, you need a 60-second handstand to participate in this. Okay, great. Well, now you've made it exclusive. It's only for that group, and that can be okay. You know, that's the education level. But I do think that if we do care about, you know, claiming some sort of inclusivity of the practice in some way, it also transcends into the economic component and not just the physical body component.
Yeah, I see.
And that can matter too. As I said earlier, you know, to me, I care deeply about looking around and seeing, because I care about communication. You know, I care about us like exploring our potential for communication. And that means exploring our potential for communicating with all types of people in all types of spaces, you know, and not just some people, you know, who have certain kinds of experiences in certain kinds of spaces.
Yeah, I think this is almost a bit like there are these outliers almost. I think this, like you said, there are this some are teaching very expensive workshops. Yeah. I see what you mean. Definitely, these are then very exclusive workshops. I mean, I was always wondering how people can afford so much money for such things, you know. Because
I found that it ends up kind of trickling down. So like, for instance, I owned a gym, right?
Yeah.
And I was studying movement in a certain way that was like extremely expensive, which made it exclusive. So in return, I had to make what I was doing exclusive so that I could afford to keep doing the thing that I was doing. So I had to make it only accessible to certain people who could continue to like bankroll my thing, or the practice that I was exploring.
Or you would have needed to have so many participants that would be the other thing, no?
Right. But, you know, it kind of gets handed down. You're like, or it trickles down from there. But yeah, but then as I looked around, I realized I was like, oh, like, not to say that everybody was the same, but everybody was kind of arriving at life from like a more similar experience than from a different experience, you know, and being in a place like New York City, I mean, you can look around and you're like, oh my gosh, people are arriving at life in so many different circumstances. Wouldn't it be more interesting for all of us to get to like have the potential to communicate with all these people? And this is still a lesson that I'm learning as I go along, and it's why we're continuing to have the conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it matters, and I think it also matters when you start to care about things. You know, like I've said it before, and I find myself repeating myself, but they're wonderful teachers who I really care about and I really love, and I love taking their classes. But you know, I think that there are people who are just caught up on like the content of their material, and it's wonderful content, but what they want to present is just content. But when you have like as I always say, like a message that the content is like a vehicle for, or you have values that the content's a vehicle for, or something that is a little bit more, it's like, well, then it's somehow aligned with like what you would like to see in the world. And if that really does matter, then finding these places for accessibility probably matters as well. And yeah, I think that some of the ideas we're getting into here are super interesting and are kind of inspiring, you know, various ideas for me. But I think it's also worth, you know, people considering is like, oh, like basically like why are you teaching? Why are you teaching? What are you teaching? You know, what does it mean if people have access to this? You know, like little kids often play that game where they'll say like, why are you doing that? And then you give an answer and they say, yeah, but why? And then you say, give an answer, and then they say why again. And it's like by the 10th why you get to some sort of like, you know, existential answer about the universe or something. But like
usually you just say because it is like this.
Yeah, just because. But if you keep doing that why game, it's like you get closer and closer to like, oh, like why this matters.
Yeah.
And maybe if you have this really rich why, maybe there's like a desire to like find ways. There isn't a way, but find certain ways of like creating opportunities for various people. You know, I've seen people who I really think are doing amazing stuff, who do workshops, but then they also do classes, but then they also do some free online content. And even that's really interesting to me. You know, it's not always like creating like a tiered thing, but also creating, you know, different layers of access to the material that they're presenting. Yeah, all these things are wonderful approaches, but as I said before, I'm like, I don't know. If everybody kind of looks and feels the same, like, I don't know, if you believe in accessibility, it's something worth considering.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I understand what you mean. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I can very much relate to this. I mean, there is a case of, yeah, for me it almost feels like this outlier situation, because I feel this situation with the people that I'm dealing with, like on a daily basis in Germany, the people that I have contact with, you know, other teachers and so on, and teachers I learn from in the last years. There's not this situation that something is expensive in an exclusive way, but it's like a price that is just decent, is sort of non-negotiable in I mean, obviously it can be higher and lower, but it's like, yeah, that's the price, makes a lot of sense. But I think what you also mentioned is, there is this situation that things get very big, for example, or things get big, but big in an exclusive way. Like, let's say this workshop costs 1,000 euros or something like this, and for whatever days, for whatever time, and that's already an exclusivity, and at the same time it's so big that the price could be lower, because price is usually made up of how do you make a price is like you figure out how much do you want to earn, and then you look how many people are attending, and then you divide this money by people, and if there are more people, then you can charge less, and there have less people, then you charge more. No, like if you do a one-on-one training, obviously costs much more than for a person. Yeah, let's say a person pays 100 euro per hour, whereas in the group training, a person just pays 10 euros per hour. No, that's the normal thing. But then there is this situation where price is made, and then it's in a sense exploding. Like there's 50 people at the workshop, but the price is, in a sense, like it would be just 10 people, and the price is not adapted. And then there is a feeling of, oh wow, now that feels now a bit expensive because there are now so many people. And if there are so many people, couldn't it be cheaper? Like a book got, like now that we have the printing press, what costs a book? Book costs like 10 euros, 20 euros, but someone was sitting a year to write a book, or maybe 2, or maybe his whole lifetime to write a book, and just costs 10 euros. Why? Because the distribution of a book is usually, like tens and thousands of people, which is a problem in itself also, no? Like, okay, if you write a book, it's like you need to really get a lot of a huge audience, or you write for a special audience that values, like maybe you're writing a medicinal, like a book about medicine that people need to buy for their university, and then this costs like 150 euros and only a few thousand people buy this. But I think this is the discrepancy that is happening there, that it could be actually priced lower because so many people are interested. So why is it not priced lower compared to, I'm the guy just teaching 5 people and that's it. I'm just, could be like I teach just 5 people, but then these 5 people have to pay for my life. But if I have 5,000 people, then I could charge much less. And then I could also, then I have much more possibilities with inclusivity, no? Or I can offer them. And then if I don't offer them, then people start to look a bit like, like, couldn't they be, why is the iPhone so expensive? Like, it could be, there are so many people buying, couldn't it be cheaper? Like a bit of a dumb example, but because I wanted to give an example that's not from this world. This is a bit the situation, I feel. And this is why I call it a bit of an outlier, because for most people that's not the situation that, as we say in German, dass die Leute einem die Bude einrennen, that people are sort of running into your gym and making the gym explode because it's too crowded. I think for most owners of gyms and people making these things is more like, I have enough people, or I have not enough, or I have a bit more than enough, but it's not that there is a 30 people line in front of the toilet all the time or something like this.
Yeah. I think still like the continues to like come back to a little bit of that idea of like abundance and excess a little. I still think everybody kind of having that opportunity to like I do it a lot, like looking at my life and thinking, how much do I really need? And when I really think about what I need or how much that is to like really live a life that is not necessarily one of abundance, but like one that continues to like help feed the education that I think supports what I want to share and be out there doing what I think matters. Like, it helps me frame what I think something is worth, It's not just driven by any sort of demand or something like that, because with that, it's like we start, I don't know. Yeah. As I said before, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I do think that like that idea of growth or the ideas of abundance or excess is super seductive. You know what I mean? And I forget the song, Mo Money, Mo Problems. You know this? You've heard this?
This is a song?
You never heard the idea. You never heard the term Mo Money, Mo Problems?
No, not
I'll
not
show
like
it to you.
this.
I'll Google,
Not like this.
I'll Google it
Yeah,
for you
yeah,
after. But the idea that like
yeah.
like it's like the more you have, the more you kind of take on.
Yeah.
And even if it's like incremental or small, like I've had it where I've made just a little more money, so I've gotten like a little bit bigger apartment. Or I've gotten a little more money, so I've taken a little more like extravagant vacation.
Yeah.
And then the bar changes of like the expectations.
Yes, I understand.
And then, ask a little bit more, expect a little bit more from students or clients or something. But I don't know, continue to go through the reframing and the re-asking of what do I need? Am I participating in abundance, or am I asking for just enough? I think maybe it's a reminder to not just like ask like people who are paying to come to a class to have that man in the mirror moment, but maybe for me personally also continuing to be like, oh, which level am I at? Where what is enough?
Because there is definitely there's like with everything there is a bit of a danger to it as well, no? Like, okay, let's say you're starting with you're like 18 years old and you do your stuff and you don't have any money, and then you live like somewhere you sleep somewhere on the floor, let's say, and you buy the cheapest food that is a bit like GMO chemical stuff on there or whatever, like it's something where I feel like, okay, like I cannot afford anything else, but that's it. You ride the subway as a free rider, you cannot afford the ticket and so on and so forth. So then you get more money, like suddenly, okay, now I can pay for ticket, okay, now I can buy for better food, I can maybe stop to sleep on the couch of a friend, but get my own first room in a flat share, and so on. Okay, the next thing that happens is I always think about it as an elephant, I think, because there's this children's book that I read to my kids sometimes, and there's this tiger and a bear. It's very known in Germany. It's a German thing, and there are many books, but in one they get a how do you say, from the how do you say this, when the pirates, they in the ground they bury
a treasure.
A treasure, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, a treasure, and then it shows how they lose all the money. And basically one incident is there's this, and I think it's an elephant, and he's like from the king, and takes the taxes. And then it shows a picture how he goes around they walk around the forest, and he walks around the forest the other way. Mm-hmm. And then they meet him again, like after a few minutes, and then he says again, oh yeah, we need more taxes and so on. So that's the next thing that happens. No, I can remember this very vividly, because I was always self-employed, because my financials were always very clear for me. And I started, and I didn't have to pay any tax, and I didn't have to pay any health insurance, and then the next moment I earn more money. But then also, the hands open from the state, the hands open from blah 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 blah, and it's like you earn more, but the percentage of what goes away is high, and sometimes you feel like I'm earning more but I have less, although I don't, and so on. There's all this stuff, until you get to I would say a point where there is sort of a normality. I mean, you have maybe your own flat, or your share flat, or you can pay for your transportation. Normally you don't have to worry like every second of your life about it and what you will buy in the end. Like it's not anymore like a thing in your head, like every second of your life, like in German we say to flip the coin all the time, if I can give this coin to something. And I think that's then the moment where it's very important to how do you say, to look into the mirror, like you said. And the danger that I want to talk about is it can also be that you say, okay, yeah, I don't need anything and so on and so forth. But maybe then also, in a sense, the society is just a bit cruel to you because these resources are there. I mean, in the US and Germany, we live in this this is a society of abundance where the problem is mainly that the abundance is not distributed very well. Yeah. So the danger is that you sort of settle very low. Danger, but it's very good, no? Also to say, yeah, I don't need anything. Like for me, it's the same. Like I often do this as an exercise. What do I really need? And to realize, as long as I have my sleeping bag and my mattress, I'm already fine, because I can just sleep in the forest and I have my clothes. Everything is ready. Like I can pack my bag and I can just go and then I can get some food out of I can dumpster dive or something like this. Like I can survive, without money in that sense. So that's there. And on the other hand, what is actually the resources that the society has, that where I can also participate and where I can also say, yeah, actually, with all the work that I'm doing, I think it's also fair to be able to, pay for my rent or something like this. No, and at the same time, not getting into the spiral of growth where earning more means
like accumulating more.
Yeah, but where earning more can also mean having more more resources available for important things, or where it can mean to have more relaxation about money, because that's obviously also a thing, no? To accumulate a certain wealth that can be very different for everyone, because if, let's say, you are a person that lives with very little money and just needs 10,000 euros a year, and you have accumulated, you are very you earn more than what you need and blah, 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 and that someone you have 50,000 euros, and then it shows, I could actually live 5 years without earning any money because I'm living not on a big foot. This is how we say in German. Yeah. So we're in a sense wealthy, not wealthy from a normal standard maybe of Germany or the US. Okay, 50,000. Okay, it's very good to have but most people, this is what they need in 1 year. Yeah, or even they need more. I don't know. Like I think in Germany is maybe what a family is often using in a year. Because now I'm getting to the point where I wanted to talk with you earlier, but I forgot almost that when I read the book, I think it's called The Short History of Almost Everything or something like this. It's one of the Bill Bryson books. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's this, but it's one of his books, and he talks a lot about how different things have been discovered and so on and so forth. And I read it and I thought, like, wow, like each person he's talking about, like that had this and this discovery, blah blah blah, seems to be some English almost lord, like living in a manner that doesn't need to work and just has a lot of free time. It was interesting because I felt, this in many centuries, a high percentage of the people that were like figuring out many very important things for humanity were these people that didn't need to work. So there is also a good thing in this, no? And that we have some rich people. Obviously, we don't need like Louis XIV, like Louis the 14th, like or something like this, or Marie Antoinette, like because they didn't find out probably many. I don't know if they found out anything. Yeah, but there are these people. Okay, they get super bored. Yeah, I don't need to work, so I just start to walk around and flip stones around. And realize there's this. Now, no one ever saw this. That's the one situation. And then the other situation is that we already talked about a tiny bit, is if so there's the creativity that comes through that, through the boredom. You don't need to work. and then there is the creativity through the opposite,
From
through
necessity.
the necessity, from the survival. No, like one friend of mine who's a musician in Germany, and he's a known musician and knows other known musicians, and told me about this known German rapper, who got, I don't know, his first big contract or something like this, got a lot of money and basically used all this money directly to buy a very expensive watch. And then people asked him, why are you doing this? Like, you know, you had no money and now you have all this money and you spend everything on this watch. Are you crazy? And then he said, yeah, you need to stay hungry. So he got rid of all his money. Sort of, you know, he gets again
to stay
in the survival
place, yeah.
mode. And this I found interesting. The rapper I really dislike. This guy's music is very terrible, I think. But this notion I found very interesting. That to say that he sort of realizes, in a sense, it's dangerous to be settled. So I rather spend my money for unnecessary.
Well, you know what it is? It's like this balance between like the familiar and the unknown, right? Or like the safety and the uncertainty, right? I'm actually reading right now Mating in Captivity. Have you ever heard of this book? It's about relationships and sex and things like that. But like they talk about, she is speaking about this idea of like what kind of keeps this like kind of healthy, this kind of relationship that's still exciting and dynamic alive is by having this like balance of like known and unknown. When like we get too comfortable in a relationship, right? Often it's because like there's almost too much known. There's too much familiarity. But the tension comes from having like the familiar and the unfamiliar, right? So it's almost like in this situation, it's like, you know, too much security can be as detrimental as having too much unknown or too much uncertainty or too much of the fearful place of what's going to happen tomorrow. And having that kind of like happy balance of the two is where, you know, you have the room to go turn over stones, and there's a little bit of that like hunger to feed yourself tomorrow at the same time.
And although I think it's in a sense two different situations, you know, because I think the opposite situation of the survivor situation is that you are in a work situation where you are, for example, employed and you earn your money. You know what I mean? Like you, in a sense, you have no time, like you, how do I say, like, yeah, you work your 40 hours and you earn enough money to sustain how you want to live and so on and so forth, and then you settle, you know, which is a bit different from the English lord, that he really has nothing to do, like he's not working 40 hours a week, so he needs to find something to do with his time, and then he gets creative or not. Like, I guess there's many more that have not started to figure something out about some fossils or something like this, compared to the ones that figured it out. But both create sort of the need to do something, no? I have nothing to do, so I want to do something, because that's a weird situation to live, like to do nothing is number one. Or it just happens, like things are happening, you know, like with people said about René Descartes that he spent a lot of time just actually in his bed and thinking, no, and then he came up with all these things that we might agree or disagree on, but he definitely came up with things. Or you are forced from the survival, no, to come up with things, which you also said, like you experienced, and which was very creatively nourishing for you.
Yeah, but the more I think about it, the more I think about what you're saying, it's like, you know, so much of it is also just like mindset, like depending on like where you're at in life. It doesn't always have to be necessarily financial. It can just be how we choose to see our days, right? And yeah, the balance of like the doing and the not doing, and the balance of like the boredom and the action, they're not like one or the other. They're like kind of two sides of the same coin, and somehow having the space for both is pretty valuable. But we're also acknowledging now that like there are certain circumstances in life that people have that lean more towards one or the other. But in some ways, like the dance between the two are really, really nice. The boredom leads to action. The action creates a fatigue that might lead to boredom, which leads to some new kind of action. They're the two sides. But yeah, I think understanding now that there are potentially like different economic situations that favor one or the other is fascinating.
What do you mean with the last sentence?
Like yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I know. I understand. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But somehow almost I don't know. Maybe recognizing or respecting that like whatever our economic situation is, like, there can be this like healthy dance between the two.
I think I have both in my life pretty much. Like I have this urgent situation where I feel like, okay, like how is what I present also creates income for me and my team, like how are we putting this into the world and so on. And then there is the other places where I take my time actually to, in a sense, like exactly not do this. Okay, maybe I just play around with things. Maybe I'm just lying around actually. Maybe I'm just walking around. And I would say a lot of the foundational work that I work with have been created in these situations where I sort of in an abundance situation where I feel I have my time. There's no clock. I can just be. And then putting it into a digestible form, this often was helped by also urgency. Okay, now I have to make something out of it that I can present, that I can bring into the world in something that makes sense to people, that they can understand. This is really needed now, maybe because it can be financial reasons, but it can be also just that someone is asking for it. Like I have this problem, like how can you give me some resources about that? And it's like, I do all this myself, but now I need to, now there is the demand is there. I need to put it in a way for people to digest. And I do some tricks about it that I'm a bit hesitant to share, but I will do now, is that I sometimes actually set up things that are not fully prepared from my side. Like, for example, I say I on next week I will present this. I tell people next week I will present this to you. But it's not ready. And then it's like, okay, like it's like the foundation is all there, so I can say next week I present this, but the digestion of how do you say or making it digestible, like putting it in a communicatable way is not yet fully done. But through this urgency, I then the energy is there to make it, to create it, that it's there in a presentable way. So I play with this because I know about the both sides, and for me if I stay too much in the urgency, this becomes dangerous. Like my risk of getting sick goes up. my level of, how do you say, agitation, or like, you know, anxiety, like this stuff goes up, and then I need to make sure that I don't have too much of this all the time. It's a bit like, do you know the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
I know the book, but I've never read that one.
Yeah. It's a very good book. Like the title is very, in German we would say, it's very American.
It is very American. In American we say it's very American.
But it's a very good book. He has one model in there which has 4 quadrants, and so you have urgent and important, important and not urgent, urgent and not important, and not important and not urgent. And he says mostly work is done in, this is claim, either in urgent and important, urgent and not important, or not urgent and not important. But people are not spending enough time in what he says is quadrant 2, important but not urgent, you know, because the urgent stuff is always like going first. But to be able to be in this quadrant 2, to work on important stuff that is not urgent, that this is quite a mastery about like how to set up your life, like your schedule.
You know what's
all
interesting
this
is
stuff.
I think that also like we're in like the world of infinity, right? In the world where we have so much access to being able to see all the potential things we can do, we may start defining a lot more things as urgent than actually are. I think I just finished a book that I really, really like. It's one of these ones where I keep recommending it to people. This book, 4,000 Weeks. It's this book about this amount of time is approximately how long we will live. If that's what your time is limited to, which is finite, what do you do with that time? How do you spend your days, right? And we can often be made to feel like we're supposed to do more, and every time we accomplish things thinking we're done, and time fills out with more things for us to do. You know, it's kind of like this weird trick that's played on us. But we also attempt to accomplish a lot because we want to squeeze in as much as we can. And I think we're also fed this idea of squeezing more in because we see so much out there, you know, with like all the YouTubes and the Instagrams. It's like you see so many things that you can do with your life and with your time. You're like, I want to do it all. And there is almost a sense of urgency to it, like, oh, do this and do this and do this and get this in too. But yeah, he really proposes and is stating that like you are not going to do everything. You're going to have to choose. And it's going to happen inevitably. But the sooner you kind of accept the choosing, the sooner you might be able to really relish in the few things that you've chosen, right? And I was thinking about that as you were talking about, like, you know, important and urgent, or what was it? Urgent and not important, something like that. But the idea that I think we might potentially start defining things as urgent that maybe aren't urgent, or things that are important that aren't quite important either, you know, and kind of taking some time to investigate what those things are is valuable. At one point in the book, he says, make the list of the 10 things that you really want to do and put them in order of what you, of them, you know, and then erase the bottom 7 because they're not going to happen. But then you have those 3 and you can really like get in there and like be with them in the really rich way, instead of feeling the urgency to like do them all, you know? There's a little bit of a turn from what you were saying, but yeah, with the idea of urgency, I feel like there's like a maybe a bit of like a culture of like urgency to like do as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. And also there's this goes very far away from our topic, but no, this is but there's one, maybe it doesn't go so far away from our topic if we phrase it like this, that it's like to accumulate like yeah, like you said, more, but also to do a lot and to be very busy and to because then if we can get a bit out of this spiral, then maybe the question comes also again, like, what are we paying money for?
Yeah.
What do we want to use our money for? Because money is power, not the only power, but it is a power in the world that shapes what's happening next. If I give money somewhere, I said again, this is pressing on the button, like this shall continue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is one of our many tools that we can shape the world, like participating in shaping the world with.
Right, because by paying for something, you're saying yes to it. I like the way you said that. Like, you're saying this should continue on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also think that it's worth also being free to, like, not just feel like we're obliged to celebrate more and celebrate growth, but also maybe more so celebrate just enough and celebrate mediocre, because I think things are a lot more like that than they are the other side, you know? I think, we're the only kind of creatures that seem to be caught up on, like, the more, better, best. Everything else in the world feels like it's just doing enough. And I think that that's an okay thing to celebrate and accept as well. You know, and I don't know how that applies necessarily to the money, but it might actually, kind of accepting those things may decide how we navigate our financial decisions in some way.
I think this is also connected with being, how do you say, like, in a sense, like more focused on yourself, but not in an egoistical way. But what I mean is less looking, what other people are doing and have and so on, to less think competitively, but to more, so the picture, I like this, like the following picture, that you deeply rest on your inner couch, instead of like being like this anxiety state of what other people are doing and are they better than me and so on and so forth. And I think, there is, obviously there's a sense of like quality that you have to yourself or for yourself, like how do you say I don't know what how to say it properly in English, but like you have your own dignity, and you don't want to, I don't know, like you are human, so you have a dignity, so it's good to, in a sense, be that also, no? But that doesn't need to mean that I always relate myself to other people and what they're doing. And if I rest more in myself, then there's less comparison also. And if there's less comparison, then there's less actually of good enough or mediocre or better or the best and so on. It disappears also a bit more in a sense.
Yeah. And if that disappears a little bit, like, I don't know, maybe it changes what we say yes to, what we like give the approval to, that it keeps going on and presses that button, like if I'm invested in being just enough as I am without comparing myself or competing with something else, what I'm going to press the button for yes to or I'm going to invest in, it might be very, very, very different than what I'm going to invest in and say yes to if I'm trying to compete or if I'm trying to grow.
Yeah, it will be
something.
It will be harder to manipulate you
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Let's find a few sentences to wrap it up. No, like our.
Mm-hmm.
I say always with in my German podcast with Sasha that I have, we always say the Schlussplädoyer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is in English. You also have this word plaidoyer, a similar word.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like your when you have an argument,
Mm-hmm.
then you say your your last
Like your closing statement.
closing statement. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Schlussplädoyer,
Mm-hmm.
closing statement. So what is our closing statement? I start, Kyle. So this idea of the different tires that you have presented, this I really like, especially the way that you have presented it with that there's not just, okay, this is, let's say this is the normal price and this is the subsidized price or something like this, but to say clearly, if that's your situation, then you are in this tire, and if that's your situation, you are in this tire, and so on and so forth. And I'm really thinking how to implement this into my work. I'm thinking a long time about something like this, but this gave me something more clear. My concern is with the complexity of the matter, sort of with it bloats a bit this money aspect suddenly, instead of just saying this is the price and let's not like talk too much about money, like either you can pay it or you cannot pay it. That's my concern that I have in my head. But on the other hand, I'm very open for experimentation. So maybe I just experiment with this tire thing, and then after a year look like is it too complex for people? Like does it get a lot of emails of people are confused, or is it, or what do people say and so on? So I feel that might be my next experiment in a way. Yeah, so thank you very much for sharing for this conversation, because I'm definitely not just like taking things out on a conceptual level, but on a practical level actually. Yeah.
Nice. It's funny because I spend a lot of time mulling over the money thing, and maybe I get a little idealistic and throw around terms like indirect reciprocity and gift economy and things like that, because it's really the type of thing that I wish to see. But getting to hear your perspective, especially with a lot of like your experimentation, and especially when you were talking about kind of the idea of you can't go to the grocery store and do the same thing or any of the other necessities that we need, and play the same game of sort of like, oh, well, somebody gave me a book. Can I give you the book? And then you give me some potatoes or anything like that. Like, it doesn't work if not everybody's kind of playing that way. It leaves me thinking a little more about like continuing to like maybe embrace some of like the idealism I have and the values that I want to move through with, but also a little bit more reconciling with like the world we're also navigating in at the same time. And like, it was helpful. And also I just admire, like you being somebody who's willing to like tinker with these things and not necessarily to subscribe to what's happening out there naturally, that you're willing to, I don't know, be the person who's like, I'm going to do a free class for a year to see what happens and play with it a little bit, like I don't know. I think we're both fans of like getting lost. I think we even talked about it on my podcast, that idea of like not using Google Maps all the time. And I don't know, to me, it's actually a little bit of leading from the front of getting lost, even in like the economic standpoint, and playing with that a little bit. So yeah, I admire that a lot.
Nice. Cool. Okay, then I think we say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Ciao.